Throughout my life, I've played a lot of video games. Some were good, some were bad, some were in between. But never in my entire life have I lost it over a game so good that I not only forgot how games worked for a brief moment, but also made me question myself. What was I thinking this whole time? Is there more to life than just critiquing art? Why did this game make me want to pursue more than just technology? It's a game that good, and it deserves to be talked about. So let's not waste any time. Shall we Roomerang? Before we enter the Roomerang house, we should probably talk about the pack it's included in. Roomerang is one of 5 games in the Jackbox Party Pack 9, which, as the name implies, is the 9th mainstream entry in the popular Jackbox franchise. The first Jackbox Party Pack was released in 2014 by then newcomer Jackbox Games. It was not only their first multi-game pack, but also their second title to utilize their phones as controllers technology, first introduced in Fibbage, originally a launch title for the Amazon Fire TV. Since the first Party Pack's release, Jackbox has issued out a new one every year, all of them being well received by critics and audiences, and Party Pack 9 is no exception. Released on October 20th, 2022, the Jackbox Party Pack 9 included 5 new games: Fibbage 4, Nonsensory, Junktopia, Quicksort, and of course, Roomerang. It also introduced some new features, such as QR codes in the lobby, a first since the original Fibbage. Easy host reconnects, so if the host loses a connection, the game is paused for 5 minutes rather than instantly destroyed. And the ability to kick players through the Jackbox.tv moderation tools, the latter being a highly requested feature. Personally, I found Party Pack 9 to be a solid entry in the franchise. Fibbage 4 is the most feature-packed, though I prefer Fibbage 3. Junktopia is a fun flip antiques for profit type game, with some fantasy elements, and a very entertaining one at that.
Magic!
Ah, he's just legs!
Quicksort is a fun block sorting game, as long as you have people playing it without latency. And Nonsensory is, well, let's just say I got more enjoyment out of the host impressions than actually playing the game.
Oh look, an alliteration!
Where does the truth lie?
In Fibbage 5!
Overall, it's pretty decent, but it's no Party Pack 7. So with that out of the way, it's time to enter the Roomerang house.
Goodness, an unexpected arrival.
Well, who do we have here? Get in here, new roomie.
So let's start where all Jackbox games begin, the menu screen. The main menu is rather simple, but it does give an idea of what the game's visuals are going to be like, judging by the logo's 3 frames of animation. Upon entering the lobby, the main menu transitions into a bunch of screens and what looks like the host's desk. There's plenty of details to look over, such as the host sitting down on a chair holding a mug, the obviously unrealistic keyboard, the fact that the host might be left-handed judging by the position of the mouse next to the keyboard, and a mug with utensils in it that says Number 1 Host. But if she's really Number 1 Host, how come she hasn't hosted You Don't Know Jack yet? The game itself requires a minimum of 4 players, and supports a maximum of 9. Once you enter the game with the room code on the Jackbox controller, you'll be greeted with a name confirmation screen, followed by a Choose a Detail About Your Character screen, where you're given 4 options, 3 default roles, and a custom role. Finally, you get to choose an avatar, in which there are 12 of them, 6 male and 6 female, each with a different monochromatic color. After selecting an identity, the avatar shows up in the lobby, along with their matching voice sound effect. Once all the necessary players are in, the game can finally begin. After seeing an animated opening title, and by animated I mean zooming in, we get introduced to the game's host, Roomerang, voiced by Desi Bing.
I'll be your host, here to guide you through a game that's a little reality TV and a lot of personalities.
The tutorial segment gives the players an idea of what the game's about, and is also pretty fun to watch, especially for this.
Drama!
Seriously, I could so easily see this becoming a meme. Hey, have you heard about the changes going on at Warner Brothers Discovery?
Drama!
Say, you heard about the controversy over alternative app stores?
Drama!
Yo, you heard about Elon Musk and Twitter?
Drama!
Do what you do best, Internet. Spread the word. After that, we get introduced to the main contestants, or roomies as they're called, followed by the rest of the instructions. Each player begins with 5 points in their private bank, and the main gameplay premise involves responding to a multitude of prompts, ranging from general introductory questions to who's to blame type questions. The latter, I'm sure, is what social media is full of right now. The game essentially encourages role-playing, which is something pretty unique for a Jackbox game. The only other game I could think of that's kind of similar is Monster Seeking Monster, but even then that focuses more on the dating aspect than unleashing your inner character, or in this case, reality television star. So you're allowed to do whatever you want, whether it's backstabbing players or just playing nice with them. It opens up a lot of creative opportunities.
I'm not your mother.
Each round has a challenge, where players answer prompts either in character or as themselves. The responses from each individual are then shown on screen, before players vote for their favorite. Each point is gained per vote, and the player with the most votes wins the challenge, along with a special advantage. These range from safety plus giving another chosen player safety, and swapping points with another player, just to name a few. Following the voting round is the elimination round, where players and the audience vote on who should leave and why. Some advantages can give power to the winner, such as choosing who to eliminate that voted for the winning answer, one vote counting as 2, and canceling another player's vote. After the votes are counted, the eliminated player is revealed through an animated sequence that is also begging to be a meme. We then see who voted who and the reasons why on screen. Each player who voted for the eliminated player gets points, while the eliminated player loses points per vote. The departing player then has a chance to say any last words while somehow floating in the sky, before the doors are shut on them.
Okay, we get it.
So yeah, they're out of the game. Except, not really.
My goodness, an unexpected arrival. It's a newcomer.
Instead, the player comes back with an accessory, a new name, and a new description about them. Basically, they're Roomeranged back into the drama.
Drama!
Yeah, we get it. Also, I kind of find it hilarious that Rue and the gang don't even recognize the new roomie as the last one. I'll just assume everyone in the house has Clark Kent syndrome. Now here's an interesting fact about the name changes. Normally, the first vowel in the player's name is always changed. However, if you turn on family-friendly mode, an affix is added to their existing name instead. Just thought it was worth mentioning. Also, throughout the game, there is an inbox on the bottom left corner of the controller, so you can see who tried to eliminate you previously or who won the challenge, giving players suggestions on who to eliminate. The main game is divided into 5 rounds. The first, Introductions, is where you answer a prompt that involves introducing yourself to the other roomies. The second, Connections, is about connecting with another player. A randomly selected player to be exact. The challenge winner and player mentioned in the winning answer get the same amount of points, and sometimes both players can get safety in an advantage. The third round is a quickie, which plays similar to the first round, except all the players are humanoids of Gene from Survive the Internet. In other words, it's a gene pool. Oh what, it was too easy. The fourth round, Firestarter, is, as the name suggests, a Firestarter round. It plays similar to the Connections round, only the player gets to choose another player, instead of it being randomly selected. The fifth and final round is the Finale round, where the players are given one final question, usually involving a lesson, moral, or learning experience, like these reality TV shows go. After all the responses are submitted, the players then vote on which one they like the best. Oh, sorry, they get to vote on who should win the game, where the point values are doubled per vote. Also, in the finale, there's not one, but 2 voting rounds, the second being who should not win, which essentially takes away points from them per vote. Afterwards, the final scores are calculated. As usual, the player with the most points at the end of the game wins, and also gets to put in a victory speech, before Rue inevitably closes the door on them.
Time's up. Love you.
During the end credits, we get a rather catchy Roomerang theme song, which feels like it would have been taken from a music video. The VIP also has the option to start another game with the same players. When that happens, the host will reintroduce them with the same identities. However, the scores are reset. And that's basically how the game works. There are also other options, such as a no timers mode, a US-centric content filter, and by far the most notable, the audience. While the players are typing in their responses, the audience can answer polls about players, with the results shown on screen. There's also an advantage where the winning player gets safety, while the audience gets to choose who to eliminate. So, what did I like about Roomerang? Well, first off, there's the gameplay. Like I said before, this is Jackbox's first attempt at a dedicated roleplay game, and in my opinion, it works brilliantly. You have a lot of creative freedom when it comes to the responses, which is more than I could say with another Jackbox party game, Job. While I found the concept amusing, the limitations of the given words kind of takes away some creative freedom, and on top of it, the rounds do get repetitive over time. Here, you can type in whatever comes to mind. The only limit you have are the amount of characters you put in. But Quiplash had that, and it's one of my favorite party games, so there's that. Also, each round has some uniqueness to them, and isn't just repeated word for word. The second thing I like about this game are the visuals. The visuals are gorgeous. They took a lot of inspiration from Picasso and Cubism, and it really shows. Each character looks unique and pretty colorful. It kind of reminded me of the visuals from Fakin' It, which had a similar monochromatic tone to it. Though in that game, they used the colors for each character in a much more clever way. The animation is also really good. Each of the avatars have unique expressions to them, both when they're happy and sad. I especially like the purple roomie's elimination expression. It looks like something out of the beta game over screen from Luigi's Mansion. My favorite part, however, is the tutorial. At the start of the game, Rue enters the set from a door in the sky, which is pretty creative, and when she moves, her eyes and mouth get detached for a little bit, like it's lagging behind or something. This allowed for some interesting freeze frames. Rue is also one of the most flexible on-screen hosts I've ever seen. Just look at this animation of her entering the environment. It looks really cool. It makes me wonder how she got that flexibility in the first place. Oh, that explains a lot. Looks like those weeks of training from the Champed Up trainers really paid off. Now, if I had to nitpick, there are a couple of animation inconsistencies. The most notable ones involve Rue. In the tutorial segment, she looks pretty good, but in the finale round, she looks like she's about to go on a trivia murder spree. I also noticed that Rue crosses her arms wrong in the tutorial segment. Finally, some of the avatar's animations have a few inconsistencies. The purple avatar's smile in the lobby is different from the one in-game, and the yellow avatar has two different smiles for dancing and winning an advantage. But again, that's just me nitpicking. And then there's the music. They're both really good and pretty memorable. The last Jackbox game I played that had this good of animation, the music was pretty forgettable. Here, not only is the animation great, but the music is also great, so it's a win-win scenario from an audio-visual standpoint. Okay, so I've talked about the game in great detail, but what was it like playing it for the first time? Going into it, I had no idea what the full gameplay looked like. Yes, I did have some expectations from the basic premise, press kit screenshots, and a very small bit of gameplay footage from the Party Pack 9 trailer. But other than that, I had no idea what to fully expect. I didn't see the gameplay trailer nor the behind-the-scenes content, and I did that intentionally. The last time I played a Jackbox game without knowing what the full gameplay looked like, it actually made the experience a lot more fun. So I wanted to do the same with Party Pack 9, especially Roomerang. When the moment finally came, I could start feeling the adrenaline rush. Because I hadn't seen any full gameplay footage, I had no idea what to expect music and voice-wise. The only clue I got was with who was voicing the host. I made a few guesses in my mind of what she would sound like, and it ended up sounding like RuPaul. Okay, maybe it doesn't sound exactly the same, but it's pretty close. As the game started, I was already blown away by the animation. So much so that, for a brief moment, I suddenly forgot how games worked. And just when I thought it was over, this happened.
Where you stare them in the eye while stabbing them in the back. Drama!
That's my new meme for the rest of the year. Hey, look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay, I regret everything. I regret everything. No. I can't step out of this. I'm stuck. The host has me strapped in my chair. Help me. Get me out of here. Where's the exit? Where's the emergency exit? God help us all. No.
You'll be entering the game with
Gosh. And this all happened before the first round began. So yeah, while it was embarrassing of me to lose my mind over a video game, I would be lying if I said this wasn't an unforgettable experience, and one that will probably never be topped. Now that I've played the game multiple times, I now know what to fully expect. But when it came to the first time playing it, I underestimated my expectations. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know how good. Therefore, I didn't know how to react properly, and ultimately lost it near the end of the tutorial. I guess you could say it was uncalled for, but at the same time, I was going into it without knowing much. Regardless, there'll never be another first-time experience like Roomerang. It exceeded almost all of my expectations, and the fact that it came from the director of one of my least favorite Jackbox games was quite a shocker to me. Now, does this mean it's my all-time favorite Jackbox game? Of course not. It's one of my favorites, yes, but not my all-time favorite. As mentioned before, there are some visual inconsistencies, and the game is kinda too long for a full house. But like I said, most of them are nitpicks and ultimately don't ruin the experience for me. Bottom line, Roomerang is an excellent party game. If you like something that involves roleplay or just want something new for a change, it's really worth checking out. But there's more to Roomerang than just the game itself, because this was also the first Jackbox game to get both a series of behind-the-scenes streams and dev diaries. Now, this isn't the first time I've seen a game studio do this. I can recall back in 2017 when Dovetail Games did dev diaries for their then upcoming game, Train Sim World. But that's a topic for another time. Now, I won't be going into too much detail, but I will try to go over the important bits as quick as possible. So to start, we need to move the clock backward to February of 2022, when Party Pack 9 was officially announced. Alongside that was a new series called Inside the Box, which has totally no connection to one of my cancelled projects. The following week, the first game in the pack, Roomerang, was announced. The game was described as reality TV inspired, and we also got our first look at a clearly temporary logo. The very next week, we got an early paper test at what the gameplay would be like, through the first episode of Inside the Box. The series host, Michael Siciliano, introduced the first part of the Roomerang team. The game's director was Brooke Bright, who previously worked on Job from Party Pack 8 in her directorial debut. Prior to that, she was the lead editorial for Talking Points in Party Pack 7, and a writer for various Jackbox games, such as Joke Boat from Party Pack 6. Alex Wyke was the game's producer and lead designer. He had previously produced games like Champed Up and Blatherround in Party Pack 7, as well as Pole Mine and Weapons Drawn in Party Pack 8. He also produced Fibbage 4, another game in Party Pack 9. Tim Sniffen is the editorial lead, who basically helped shape how the writing and spoken dialogue in the game sounds. Tim may be more well known for voicing Mayonnaise from Split the Room in Party Pack 5. However, he was also a lead artist in some Jackbox games, like Dictionarium in Party Pack 6. Before all of that, however, he started his career at Berkeley Systems, where he worked on You Don't Know Jack movies as a lead artist. And prior to that, a few After Dark screensavers, such as the Looney Tunes animated screensaver, and Totally Twisted After Dark, where he came up with the concept for Mime Hunt. Yes, really. Finally, we've got the lead gameplay engineer, Farhan Noor Mohammed, who previously worked on Pole Mine in Party Pack 8, Champed Up in Party Pack 7, and Role Models in Party Pack 6. Near the end of the episode, the second part of the Roomerang team was unveiled. Hector Badia was the game's lead artist. He previously worked on the art for various Jackbox games, including Weapons Drawn and Champed Up. Hero Paul C would assist Hector as game artist. Leading the game's audio was Brian Chard, who you may know for his key writing roles in the You Don't Know Jack series. Ryan McGill was the lead Jackbox controller engineer, who previously worked on the Pole Mine and Blatherround. Finally, we've got Sarah Jo Townsley as QA lead, and Allison Flom as senior QA analyst. The first episode of Inside the Box gives us a backstory on how the game was initially pitched. It was originally conceived by Alex under the working title Here to Make Friends, or just simply Make Friends. The latter title is still in the final product if you dig into the game's files. Originally pitched for Party Pack 8, Brooke and Tim were on board with the idea. However, it ultimately never made it, and was instead pushed to be in the next pack. It was eventually greenlit for Party Pack 9 under the title Roomerang, which comes from the idea of getting thrown out of the house and being flung back into the action, kind of like a boomerang. The game was mainly inspired by a ton of reality television shows, like The Circle, Big Brother, Survivor, The Challenge, RuPaul's Drag Race, and Real Housewives. The paper test was demonstrated through a Google Jamboard, and for the most part retains the same gameplay elements the final product would offer, with a few differences. For one, there was no host yet, so we just have Brooke Bright for now.
That's the Roomerang, baby.
Second, the paper test provided a job title when you put your name in, such as Alex the Accountant or Ryan the Barber. Extra details would be put in before the first round began. Third, the point bank is shown to everyone, whereas the final version kept it a secret until the end of the game, which added a little more suspense. Finally, there's the challenge rounds. While the concept remains the same, the different rounds weren't fully established yet. For example, those two look like introductory questions. That one looks like a fire starter round. That one looks like a quickie, and that's definitely a final round question. Speaking of which, the final round works similar to the final product, albeit with only one voting round.
In this house, you can be rumor right or you can be rumor wrong.
The advantages, such as immunity from elimination, also work similar to the final product. However, there was one advantage that didn't make it: instant elimination to whoever wronged the player in the winning answer.
Brutal.
There was one suggestion from a fan to offer the option for a player to storm out of the house without being eliminated.
So soon, Brooke?
Obviously, that never made it into the final product. At the end of each episode, the team members would talk about what reality shows they've been watching lately. I won't go into that stuff for time constraints, but you can probably guess the shows they've binge-watched. Following the episode, the first dev diary was published on Jackbox's website. It reiterates some of the things we already covered, as well as extra details that weren't covered or are about to be covered. The next month, Alex Wyke talked about some behind-the-scenes production in 2 short videos posted on TikTok. The first one gave us some early concept art of the main sitting room. By the way, nice Rareware hat. We also got our first look at the avatars through another piece of early concept art. The top left guy is clearly supposed to be the blue roomie. The top right guy is the yellow fellow. The bottom left gal is identical to the orange roomie. The bottom right guy is supposedly the pink roomie. And the cyan gal in the middle looks more like a bootleg of the final version than early concept art. But that's just me. The second short is where Alex talks about his favorite reality TV tropes. And that's about it.
I really love when Tyra Banks says, "I have 2 girls standing before me."
Later that month, Brooke Bright did a short behind-the-scenes video on TikTok, where we got even more concept art. 10 of the 12 avatar designs were revealed, the majority of which look identical to the final version, except the teal one, who looks kinda creepy. Brooke then goes on to talk about her favorite reality TV trope, the underdog, before we get shown more concept art of the gameplay itself. My personal favorite is where the host is looking at a card from behind, while the roomies are standing in anticipation. We also got early concept art of the host, who looks more like a goth version of Rue, or possibly her lost cousin, Roomerang. And so we move on to the second episode of Inside the Box, where we get to see a digital prototype of the game in action. Notice the timer from Pole Mine makes a temporary appearance, which makes sense given that Farhan also worked on the Pole Mine. The gameplay works similar to the paper test, and just like in the final build, the player's points bank are kept hidden from the others. A few suggestions were also thrown around. Brooke Bright herself suggested multiple eliminations, which did end up in the final product.
Too much power.
A fan also suggested players changing avatars whenever they get voted out. Spoiler alert, they do, sort of. As there is no final round implemented, the game cuts to the Pole Mine end credits after the 4th round. Also, what the heck is this? Tony, that's a sweet calzone. The rest of the episode is spent on breaking down some of the game's internals. Farhan goes into a little more detail on the coding and structure of the Advantage system. Hector shows off more of his artwork with extra concept art from what we originally saw from the short behind-the-scenes video. We also get to hear about the avatar creation process from its early stages to near final.
I want to create art that juxtaposes reality and fantasy because I think that's what reality TV does, right? I thought a little bit more about approaching it in a different way, so I was thinking about Picasso-styled cubism. We would like to see them be a little bit less specific and more just like little chibi, little cute little characters. Let's keep them monochromatic. Let's explore something a tiny bit simpler. You can see these little hats and bows and disguise glasses faces that I gave these avatars. I added these like Ed, and Eddie wiggly boily lines, so it gives them a little bit of movement. This is practically the aesthetic that I'm going for. Jackbox isn't necessarily like a extremely character focused company. It's not like we're following these people around and we're controlling them and we're, you know, they take swords out and fight monsters and stuff like that.
But the fans seem to indicate otherwise. The near-final host design would later be revealed in early April on Twitter. Some of her design elements would end up in the final version, for better or worse. One interesting bit to note is that the at-the-time nameless host was originally supposed to have long hair, before ultimately going for a short mullet. Soon after, we get the second developer diary on Jackbox's blog, once again reiterating on some of the things we already covered, or are about to be covered. After a behind-the-scenes TikTok short with Brian Chard talking about the game's music,
what the f*** rhymes with Roomerang?
We head on over to episode 3 of Inside the Box, which shows off Roomerang's final round. It works similar to the final version, though the second voting round has yet to be implemented, therefore it cuts to the end credits after the first voting round. There were also plenty of other changes compared to the previous build. The main rounds were now established, and the host subtitles were implemented, albeit without a voice. The extra fill-in detail information has been moved to before the game starts, and we also got to see some early animations of the player grid. Lastly, the elimination transitions were added, along with the house departure and re-entry screens, although the accessories have yet to be implemented. This also marked the first on-screen appearance of the host, albeit storyboarded. We also got to see a preview of the work-in-progress Jackbox controller interface, courtesy of Ryan McGill, who makes his first appearance in this episode. Moderation and automatic text filtering were obviously confirmed, and a couple other suggestions were thrown around, such as using your selfie as an avatar like in role models, which obviously got rejected. The following episode, episode 4, introduced Brian Chard's compositions, as well as Desi Bing as the voice of the host. And since this is a work-in-progress build, you do get to hear a lot of this.
Ooh, spicy.
It's like she eats a pizza roll every time an elimination's about to happen. The visuals look more polished in this build, with a future-style font, avatar heads on the cards, and live typing on the parting words, just to name a few. The elimination reveal animation for the host is now, well, animated, albeit outlined. You may also notice that the envelope flies for a little bit after she drops it. Finally, the extra fill-in detail information was merged with the player's role. Following that episode, Hector Badia posted another behind-the-scenes short, revealing more of the art and animations for the avatars, as well as more concept art of the then-nameless hostess.
I'm not just a work of art, I am the whole museum.
Farhan would quickly follow with his short behind-the-scenes video, which has a pretty humorous ending to it.
I'm gonna let you guys in on a deal. I got these new albums. Well, hold up.
I've heard enough of that.
We then get the third dev diary, which again reiterates on what we've covered earlier. However, we do get our first look at the animations for the first 2 round bumpers, as well as shoutouts to reality star contestants who should play Roomerang. We also get our first mention of the folks at Rob Has a Podcast, a show that discusses reality television and consists of former contestants from Survivor. This group will be brought up later, as they apparently played a role in the playtesting process. Episode 5 of Inside the Box shows more of the game being polished. Neilman and Sala, an assistive gameplay engineer, makes their first appearance in this episode. Here we get to see the intro in action with another draft Roomerang logo. The tutorial segment also makes its first visual appearance, albeit storyboarded. Aside from the host staring at me creepily, the voiceovers are not as exciting as what we would get in the final build. The Roomie introductions were also implemented, and remain mostly the same in the final product. The first 2 round bumpers from the third dev diary are shown in-game for the first time. However, as the other 3 round bumpers were not finished yet, they utilized the first round bumper animation as a placeholder. Oh, and the 5th and final round seems to have an identity crisis. In the Quickie round, the anonymous Gene avatars make their first appearance in this build.
Oops, all jeans.
We also get some lore apparently, such as the house dog being named Pupperang. That's like naming a camera a Camerang, or a TV a Tuberang, or a rumor, well, you get the idea. And I guess Pupperang didn't last too long after that. Sheesh, that got about its darkest going on a mime hunting spree. The elimination reveal animation is close to final, with the flying envelope intact and fully animated. However, there is no lip syncing prior to that in this build. New avatar expressions when they get eliminated were added, and accessories when they re-enter the house were now implemented, albeit only berets. Some sound effects, including the doorbell, are now present, along with more one-liners from the host, including the rather infamous, "They found me." The avatar heads on the cards were now animated, though only on the orange roomie. All the temporary vote and advantage screens have been replaced with their respective animations and cards. However, there's still one temporary screen left when you try to swap or steal points, or protect a player from elimination. Finally, the Roomerang end credits theme makes its debut in this build. Brian Chart did the composition as mentioned before, while Tim Sniffen did the lyrics and Michael Finney did the vocals. After a rather humorous behind-the-scenes short from editorial lead Tim Sniffen,
you can really be winning one moment, and then the next moment you're truly like in danger.
We come to episode 6 of Inside the Box, where we see the near-final logo for the game. Now, Jackbox had revealed the near-final cover art for Party Pack 9 prior to this episode's premiere. Most assumed that the logo featured on the billboard was the final version, which it ended up not being. So Roomerang's logo officially changed to not 1, but 4 times throughout development. Jeez, they changed logos quicker than JCPenney. The tutorial in this build is visually identical to the last one. However, the voiceovers now match the ones from the final version. There were also plenty of other changes. During the challenge prompts, there is now a moving background, and the done indicators were also added. The avatar cards received some animation tweaks. However, the typewriter effect on the text is not present, despite it being featured in a work-in-progress art video posted on Twitter earlier. New accessories, including hats, glasses, and an animated beret, were also implemented. There are now voiceovers for the challenges in the first 3 rounds, and the host's elimination reveal animation was finalized with lip syncing, though the flying envelope is still present. New transition bumpers for the Quickie, Firestarter, and Finale rounds were added. The moving skies now match the color of the bumpers, and the Finale round gains a transition for the first time, with an Aurora Borealis to boot. The final round also has sponsors, though the voiceovers and taglines do not exist yet. Gameplay-wise, it works identical to the final version. However, it still abruptly cuts to the Pole Mine style end credits, right after the second voting round. Finally, a work-in-progress version of the Jackbox controller was present throughout the entire episode, showing off the audience features. My personal favorite quip from this episode came from Tim Sniffen.
I can't hear you through all the mac and cheese.
Try saying that out of nowhere in an argument. The following month, the folks over at Rob Has a Podcast got their hands on a near-final build of the game. But for the sake of time, I'll be focusing on the Inside the Box builds. Speaking of which, episode 7 shows a near-final build of the game, focusing on the audience feature, which live viewers could try out for the first time. The build in this episode looks almost identical to the final version. Compared to the previous build, however, a lot has changed. The menu, lobby, intro, and tutorial segments are all pretty much finalized, along with the house backgrounds, bumper animations, and the host animation for the finale. In the build featured on Rob Has a Podcast, the lobby artwork was unfinished, and the animation for the final part of the tutorial didn't exist yet. The temporary pole mine timer was finally replaced with a custom-made timer. A typewriter effect for the responses, with support for emojis, was finally added to the avatar cards. Advantages that involve swapping points or canceling a vote no longer had that temporary gray screen from the previous build. Rather, the avatar dancing animations are put in place. Speaking of avatars, sound effects were added to them, provided by some Jackbox employees.
All right.
Oh.
Oh.
Cool.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Yes!
All right. Yeah. Woohoo!
The flying envelope from the elimination reveal animation was removed. In the quickie round, the roomie numbers have been replaced with pronouns. The round 5 subtitle was removed from the finale round's card, and the sponsors and taglines were fully implemented with voiceovers. Speaking of which, the final scores and winner moments were also added to the game. Finally, the ability to choose an avatar was added into the game.
We did this for you!
But there was at least one small difference not in the final product. When the host talks about how the elimination portion works during the first round, she says the player with the most votes will leave the game. In the final build, the word game is replaced with house, and the dialogue was made a little more dramatic.
The player with the most votes will leave the house.
After the game ends, Brooke Bright and her team finally revealed the official name of the Roomerang host, along with how it came about.
We had some names floating around, some more beloved than others. The name came to us truly in a stroke of glory when we were watching the trailer for the Jackbox Party Pack 9. The closed captions did not know how to translate the game Roomerang, and it wrote out the name Rue, R-U-E, meringue, like the treat. So I believe we have decided that the host is now named Rue Meringue. It was told to us in a dream, and it makes all the sense in the world.
So there you have it. A stroke of luck from YouTube's auto-translated captions in the Party Pack 9 trailer happened to create the official name of the Roomerang hostess. Thanks, Google. Now granted, I have yet to see that happen on my end. I've only seen YouTube auto-translate the game's title multiple times as Roomerang, Room-E-Rangs, Rumor Ring, Boomerang, or
Cuckoo Bananas.
So it might just be pure luck on Jackbox's part. But it just goes to show you that creativity can come from all sorts of places.
I'm so proud of most of you.
With Party Pack 9 nearing its release date, the fourth and final developer diary was published. It's mostly final thoughts and highlights leading up to the game's release, discussing the final stages of development, and teasing localization. After 2 final TikTok shorts with Ryan McGill and Sarah Jo Townsley, we're taken to the final episode of Inside the Box, which aired during the Party Pack 9 launch day stream. It's basically the team playing the final build of the game, with Brooke Bright apparently cosplaying as the Purple Roomie, nice try, and the episode ends with the team doing the Roomerang.
Baby, can you Roomerang? I'll bet you can. Press it on and do your best.
That's enough.
After the game's release, Jackbox issued a patch to Party Pack 9 on November 17th, fixing numerous bugs as well as improving the overall experience. Roomerang in particular got some updates. A new logo animation was introduced, replacing the original zoom-in animation. The game received new, flatter house backgrounds for the avatar cards, replacing the original sketch backgrounds. Speaking of avatars, they have a new expression for the elimination and winner moments. And speaking of the winner moment, it now has confetti falling. There were also other minor changes, such as the host now talking in the lobby with the audience feature turned on.
Not ready for prime time? Play along in the audience by going to jackbox.tv.
The host's elimination reveal animation was now sped up in the Firestarter round, eliminating the out-of-nowhere cut between the two expressions. And the game now had an option to keep scores from the previous round entering into another round through same players. But by far the biggest addition was the ability to moderate goodbye speeches, which apparently wasn't in there to begin with.
All right. What? Awful.
The next month, Jackbox released another update to Party Pack 9 that brought in 5 additional languages to all of the games. So in addition to English, you could now Roomerang in French, Italian, German, Castilian Spanish, and Latin American Spanish.
You and you alone deserve to win.
And there you have it, a history, review, and development overview of Roomerang. Much like with the history of any product, it's quite fascinating to see the game progress through development with every passing time. I may have missed out on Inside the Box at first, but after binge watching it all the way through, I did have a good amount of fun. When it came to my first time experience, however, there's no other game like Roomerang. With its amazing visuals, unforgettable music, and unique gameplay, all with some originality, it was an experience that I will never forget nor repeat. So whether you love it, hate it, or think it's just passable, I will definitely be returning to the Roomerang house more often. But it does leave me with some questions. What do the roomies of Roomerang do in their spare time? What were their lives like before they became stars? Did one of the roomies fall for a trap? What does Roomerang do in her spare time? Does she secretly live a double life? Does she have a long-lost cousin? Why did I even bother asking those questions? Regardless, let there be fun, action, and plenty of
drama
in Roomerang, the inside story where friends are made and friendships are betrayed.
I've heard enough of that.
Yeah, thinking about it, turning Roomerang into a drama is a bad idea. Can I go home now? By the way, did anyone notice Roo shares the same name as the Chicken Man from Champ Duck?
Time's up. Love you!